All right, Culture Matters podcast. I think 30 Days of Thought is useful because when I read to think, what I've come to know is challenged, which means I might be better for the people in my life, for the customers in our lives, for those in my life on the other side of that challenge. I might be better, more useful, and in that utility based on how my relationships evolve, more meaning can come into my life and others through that utility. And so reading is a component to unlearning, to being challenged in my convictions. Writing helps me think, develop more clear the ideas and the concepts and the frameworks I'm operating from. Uh, Writing clarifies and cuts through. It breaks me. Listening. I'm reading 30 Days of Thought again, and I'm listening to my former self. I can hear myself talking as I read this book. I can watch the videos that I put out from all those years ago. I can re-listen to the podcasts of this process, and I can learn more about myself, about what I was thinking then. In the future, I'll be able to listen to this and think through what I was thinking now, which can help aware and a better version of myself. The process of even sharing these thoughts with you is cathartic. And if I'm simultaneously developing a leadership capacity in our relationship while learning of myself, then I might actually become who you think I appear to be because I'm owning the fact that I'm a student in this process. I'm not just succumbing to the influence and the power that comes with putting myself out there and potentially be being perceived as someone to follow by you. So I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm listening, I'm thinking, I'm speaking. Today I'm going to talk about accepting different socks, page 37 in 30 Days of Thought. And how I think it's relevant to you is we have to accept different points of view if we're going to lead, at least in this enough to where we can weed out what we think is false from what is and what is true. Part of leadership is making it um, for creating the preconditions for people to work together, being the steady hand, making it safe, developing trust, respecting other people, creating room for respect so people can work together when times get tough, so things can get done. Work together when times get tough, so things can get done. Accepting different socks is about working together. So here we go, page 37. Quote, to each their own. I dare to say with fiery conviction, we are but matches in the same pack and stuck together, creating a flame. We seek purpose from an outside source to realize the core ingredients of our nature within us the entire time. Our uses are abundant, no matter how we appear, and considering our genetic comparison, we each have brilliance within us. While obtaining the understanding of our self core and acceptance of our unique qualities as a unit makes us whole, I call this perception accepting different socks. Are you accepting each for their own or misunderstanding the beauty in our differences? We all know what it is like to sit down comfortably and mild mannered at the nearby coffee shop, ready to work, when all of a sudden perplexity reveals its foul head. Our perplexity emanates from the inquisitive, irritable, confused, confounded, indifferent, or upset thoughts combusting simultaneously from an odd sight of the nearby stranger wearing two different socks. All our conversations contain right or wrong, morals or ethics, congealed with negative and childlike reptile actions that stream into our minds. We are reminded of childhood, our parents, our schooling, our lack thereof, and social norms drowned upon us since the ripe old age of forever. And we become convicted by our cause. Unbeknownst to us, this is the level of unknown that has been unconsciously factored in, this emotive justification to pry and dive into another's life. Our flame burns bright with self-righteous dogma, where we feel compelled to ignite the chase and yet another victim. The idea of individualization runs dry in context to who we are, what we believe, and how we instinctively respond. Different socks for different folks are not the norm, but abnormal that we tend to hate with fear, anger, and the desire to change. Our flame is unknown to us that the entire matchbox we have may all burn out, igniting every flame while devastating all those around us, causing unchangeable catastrophe. This is all to the following misperception of another's different socks. Our sense of possession over what socks are the right pair and proper to wear. All in all, is there one true answer? No, never. How can there ever be? Unless we are told what to do, we must decide, and our decision without guidance comes as subjective. This subjectivity we cannot control, but we can recognize our individuality of the flame we all share yet differ in, as well as the beauty of our different socks, whether we decide to wear them or not. When in doubt, decide to accept different socks, as your world may end up being a better place. Right now, look down. What color socks are you wearing? And your neighbor? The word, tolerance comes to mind. Tolerance, but yet, unbeknownst to us, this is the level of unknown that has been unconsciously factored in this emotive justification to pry and to dive into another's life. It's true. We're a social. We're social. We're not. Our individuality is shaped by the social group. So what's right and wrong? These are feedback loops that we're sharing and giving to one another. And I think there's utility in that. That we're learning what not to do from our neighbors as much as we learn what to do. Simultaneously, there's I think the lesson here is be aware of the assumption, the instinct to judge and move away. Be aware of that instinct to judge and move away from another party, and to continue judging, but move closer toward that party. Move closer. Let compassion mix with tolerance. Let compassion mixed with tolerance lead your judgments to pull another out of purgatory, and that other may actually be yourself, reflected in the mirror of someone else's contradiction, someone else's livelihood that you deem unworthy of being true. That person's living a false livelihood. You leverage compassion and tolerance to meet them where they are, and to learn them, learn their story, get to know them. And maybe you'll learn something about yourself. You may be right. How they live might be wrong in the grand scheme of things. And that's on, like, they'll be judged. That's out of your control. But what you are responsible for is how you show up in this world and love people and navigate people. Accepting different sucks is part of that. Just because we accept something doesn't mean we can't fight for its rejuvenation or our view of its betterment. That's where compassion and tolerance and courage, come in. The courage to judge and critique with through compassion and in a tolerant way, and then take it back, receive it as well as you give it, teaches compassion, and can be a bridge to reason that can help another out of potentially their purgatory, and their purgatory may actually be what you perceive as their purgatory may actually be your own purgatory, your own component of, a grain of your own fracture or fragmented self is undone, and you're evolving and growing and elevating your awareness of your own life, relating to people that are different and live differently and see things through differently, accepting different socks, to dare to say with fire and granite, we are but matches in the same. Yeah, we're part of the one world together, and how we live together. I mean, how do you solve Karl Popper's paradox of tolerance, right? Which is the more tolerant we are, intolerance rises up, destroys us and itself. How do you how do you break that intolerance rises up, destroys tolerance and itself? Well, the tolerant have to be strong enough to shake intolerance out out of its intolerance, not through war and bloodshed, but through love. And maybe that's more there is a practicality to that love. It's the courageous compassion. It's the 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 competence filtered through conviction. It's the capacity to converse, to actually live the love in the conversation, that to change someone's mind. What does that mean? To change someone's mind, to break through the ideology that drives them, to actually fracture that ideology, because love is stronger than ideology. It transcends ideology. This world, it's stronger than this world. It's sacrificial. It's you matter more than me. And that should break through something rooted in this world, some ideology that's rooted in the power and the control of this world, in the competition of this world. It's a cooperative. We're in this together. And I believe that could break someone out of that ideology. We've got to go into the flame, into the fight, into intolerance. We have to meet intolerance with tolerance, but an intolerant tolerance. We're intolerant to the intolerance, but we're tolerant of intolerance. And we're intolerant to the intolerance, but we're tolerant. We're intolerant of Oh, we're intolerant of our own intolerance, but we're tolerant of the intolerance. Yeah, we're intolerant of our own intolerance, but we're tolerant of the intolerance. I swear that's the way to do it. We're intolerant of our own intolerance. So we're tolerant of intolerance, but we're intolerant to our own intolerance. So we have to be strong enough for our tolerance to not become intolerance and fight evil with evil, but fight evil with love. What is evil? It's this when the I am more important than you versus I am less important than you, and you feel that you're less important than me. We both believe that, so we both are like exponentially better. Versus if I believe I'm more important than you, and you believe you're more important than me, then we're gonna have to fight it out. Or if you believe you're less important than me, and I believe I'm more important than you, then I win and you're down. We both have to buy into this idea that we're more that each other is more important than ourselves, and then that actually elevates both of us. So we can be intolerant of intolerance, but we have to, I'm sorry, we want to be intolerant of our own intolerance and tolerant of intolerance. So we meet the intolerance face to face, and we don't succumb to the intolerance that would come through ourselves. I'm going to continue figuring this thought out. But the idea here is to live the compassion and to live the reason and to live the courage and to live the love, to live it. And it's tested in relation to the counterparty that's not living it. It's tested, it has limits. And the absolute limit is death. Accepting different socks. Be sure to read to think, write to develop, listen to hear what is unsaid, and speak to let go. I will see you next time on the Culture